Chapter 17. And when Abram was 90 years old and 9, the Lord appeared to Abram and said unto him, I am God Almighty. Walk before me, and be you wholehearted. And I will make my covenant between me and you, and will multiply you exceedingly. And Abram fell on his face. God talked with him, saying, As for me, behold, my covenant is with you, and you shall be the father of a multitude of nations. Neither shall your name any more be called Abram, but your name shall be Abraham. For the father of the multitude of nations have I made you. And I will make you exceeding fruitful, and I will make nations of you, and kings shall come out of you. And I will establish my covenant between me and you, and your seed after you, throughout their generations, for an everlasting covenant, to be a God unto you, and to your seed after you. And I will give unto you, and to your seed after you, the land of your sojournings, all the land of Canaan, for an everlasting possession, and I will be their God. And God said unto Abraham, And as for you, you shall keep my covenant, you and your seed after you throughout their generations. This is my covenant, which you shall keep, between me and you and your seed after you. Every male among you shall be circumcised, and you shall be circumcised in the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be a token of a covenant between me and you. And he that is 8 days old shall be circumcised among you, every male throughout your generations, he that is born in the house, or bought with money, of any foreigner that is not of your seed. He that is born in your house, and he that is bought with your money, must needs be circumcised. And my covenant shall be in your flesh for an everlasting covenant. And the uncircumcised male who is not circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, that soul shall be cut off from his people. He hath broken my covenant. And God said unto Abraham, As for Sarai your wife, you shall not call her name Sarai, but Sarah shall her name be. And I will bless her, and moreover I will give you a son of her. Yes, I will bless her, and she shall be a mother of nations. Kings of peoples shall be of her. Then Abraham fell upon his face, and laughed, and said in his heart, Shall a child be born unto him that is 100 years old? And shall Sarah, that is 90 years old, bear? And Abraham said unto God, O that Ishmael might live before you. And God said, Nay, but Sarah your wife shall bear you a son, and you shall call his name Ishak. And I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant for his seed after him. And as for Ishmael, I have heard you. Behold, I have blessed him, and will make him fruitful, and will multiply him exceedingly. 12 princes shall he beget, and I will make him a great nation. But my covenant will I establish with Ishak, whom Sarah shall bear unto you at this set time in the next year. And he left off talking with him, and God went up from Abraham. And Abraham took Ishmael his son, and all that were born in his house, and all that were bought with his money, every male among the men of Abraham's house, and circumcised the flesh of their foreskin in the selfsame day, as God had said unto him. And Abraham was 90 years old and 9, when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. And Ishmael, his son, was 13 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. And the selfsame day was Abraham circumcised, and Ishmael his son. And all the men of his house, those born in the house, and those bought with money of a foreigner, were circumcised with him. All right, we're going to go back up to verse 1. Now, in the last chapter, we had Sarai had given Hagar, her handmaid, over to Abraham to be his wife, and she had conceived a child and named him Ishmael. Sarah had not yet given birth to a child, but here we're going to have in this story the telling of that which is to come. And Abraham is, it's been several years since then. We'll find it's been about 13 years since Hagar had Ishmael now, and they have dwelt in the land. We're going to pick it up here in verse 1. And when Abraham was 90 years old and 9, the Lord appeared to Abraham and said unto him, I am God Almighty. Walk before me and be you wholehearted. And when Abram, that was the exalted father, whose name's going to be changed to Abraham, the Lord appeared to Abram and said to him, I am God Almighty. I am the one who exists and the powers that be. Walk before me and be you wholehearted. This one here that speaking to Abraham is that one of righteousness, that one of correctness, that one that walks correctly. 2, and I will make my covenant between me and you, and will multiply you exceedingly. And I will make my covenant, or my agreement, between me and you, and multiply you exceedingly, give you many. And this is where the understanding is going to be multiplied even, we'll find out, in the flesh. 3, and Abram fell on his face. God talked with him, saying. So Abram fell on his face, and was to prostrate himself out, plain on the ground, or spread himself out. And when the Lord spoke to him, 4, as for me, behold, my covenant is with you, and you shall be the father of a multitude of nations. As for me, my agreement is going to be with you. And we'll find out this agreement that the Lord made with Abram in the beginning, because of his understanding, his belief in his disbelief in God, which brought him around to the correct understanding of just who the power was that was steering him in his understanding. It was the Almighty himself. 5, neither shall your name any more be called Abram, but your name shall be Abraham, for the father of the multitude of nations have I made you. And this is where the Lord changes the name, the presence, the Shem of Abram, from that exalted father, from this one who had this great understanding. He's going to change his name now to this one who is going to be the father of the multitude of nations. As we will find out as we go through the story. 6, and I will make you exceeding fruitful, and I will make nations of you, and kings shall come out of you, and I will make you exceeding fruitful. You will have many children, bear much fruit. I will make nations of you. Peoples will find out, nations, and kings shall come out of you. These rulers, these kings, as we'll find out. This here was a new beginning, and the Lord was going to make another example. There has nothing changed. 7, I will establish my covenant between me and you and your seed after you throughout their generations for an everlasting covenant, to be a God unto you and to your seed after you. And I will establish my covenant, my agreement. And this agreement was really a simple agreement that you would walk before, choose that correct thing, always not be like all the others in their understandings and in their worshipings. We'll find out there's a separation here, and God's going to make the separation. And it's going to be for all these generations forever. It's for an everlasting covenant. Everlasting means forever, can't be undone. It was made by God. And there's going to be a sign given even of this covenant, this agreement that's made, because the agreement is in the flesh, and it was to be a God unto you and to your seed after you. And that's what it is, one who will be the powers, the strengths, the existing one that rules over you, and to you and your seed forever, because it's going to be that common sense understanding that God gives us in the beginning. 8, and I will give unto you, to your seed after you, the land of your sojournings, all the land of Canaan, for an everlasting possession. I will be their God. And I will give unto you, to your seed after you, the land of your sojournings, these lands where you sojourn. Sojourn's a place of where we work. what we do, where we live, part of it almost, all the land of Canaan. Canaan is that place of humility, the humbleness for an everlasting possession. And that land of humility, that land of humbleness, to humble yourself even before the Lord with humility, and that this covenant is in the flesh. 9. God said unto Abraham, and as for you, you shall keep my covenant, you and your seed after you throughout their generations. And as for you, you will keep my agreement, you and your seed, all these that come from you, throughout their generations. And this is forever, from one generation to the next, each one being born from the one before. 10. This is my covenant, which you shall keep between me and you and your seed after you. Every male among you shall be circumcised. This is my covenant. And we're going to find out this is not the covenant, but this is the token of the covenant. This is this is the example of it, almost exactly, as we're going to find out what this covenant is every male among you shall be circumcised. Every male are the ones that's going to go forth with seed and spread that out, and spread the Shem, or the presence. And every one of them shall be circumcised. Circumcision is to have a certain appendage of the male anatomy clipped. It means to be clipped, to be cut off, and that what it does is to expose the head. And there's a clipping, and that's basically what it means, to cut away that which will expose the head, or to expose the understanding, to make yourself known of understanding. That means you will be keeping the ordinances and the laws of God if you make yourself known in understanding, expose your head. Let it be seen, this example that's made in the flesh. 11. And you shall be circumcised in the flesh of your foreskin, and it shall be a token of a covenant between me and you. And you shall be circumcised in the flesh of your foreskin. And that's that part which protects the head, to be exposed, to be humbled in that aspect, to have to show yourself exposed in the fact that you have to keep the law. It shall be a token of a covenant. It's just a token. That's a sign. That's a little something to remind you of an agreement between me and you. And we'll find out the reminder is a requirement. It's part of the covenant. 12. And he that is 8 days old shall be circumcised among you, every male throughout your generations. He that is born in the house, or bought with money of any foreigner, that is not of your seed. And he that is 8 days old, 8's always a new beginning. Days, these cycles of night and light and darkness and light. Little understanding right there, that's a very small circle, a little understanding. There's a new beginning, these understandings even of old, that shall be circumcised among you, and this is what's going to make that first mark of the agreement in the flesh, is this circumcision. Every male throughout your generations, and everyone that's going to come after that's going to carry forth the seed and the Shem, he that is born in your house, or bought with money. Now, these that you would take in, even these later, this bought with money, because at that time of any foreigner, there was people purchased. Fortunately, the Lord has given us more understanding in that today. There are still people being bought and sold, and it's never going to be a correct thing to do. But when this isn't the case, we'll find out there was a need be that they be circumcised. They have to have a little understanding too. They have to be brought under the order. They have to have a little knowledge and some wisdom. They have to be taught and receive this covenant as well. That's to expose their understanding. They'll have to walk before the Lord as well. 13. He that is born in your house and he that is bought with money must needs be circumcised. And my covenant shall be in your flesh for an everlasting covenant. He that is born in your house, all of them, is basically what this, and he that is bought with money. This money here is silver, or that which was used to exchange. My covenant shall be your flesh. My covenant shall be in your flesh. This was where the token or the sign was put into the flesh, because the flesh must keep the law. 14. And the uncircumcised male who is not circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, that soul shall be cut off from his people. He hath broken my covenant. And the uncircumcised male who is not circumcised, this one who has not got his understanding exposed, the male, the one that's going to carry forth the Shem and the seed, the one who is not circumcised, that means has that still remaining, we'll find out in the flesh, he's cut off. Why? Because the circumcision is what makes that separation, and to keep it means to not have the agreement, and it's an automatic thing. It's to be cut off. You're not part of the agreement. You're not part of the covenant. You're not part of it. It's an automatic thing to be cut off. One of the two has to be cut off. 15. And God said unto Abraham, As for Sarai, your wife, you shall not call her name Sarai, but Sarah shall her name be. And God said, God here is this Elohim, the mights, the powers that exist, this one, who is the strength of all, says unto Abraham, the father of many nations, As for Sarai, the princess, your wife, this one is your reflection, you shall not call her Sarai, but Sarah shall her name be. And Sarah is basically the same as Sarai. Sarai is that there are several princesses, but Sarah is this princess, kind of alone, the princess, more this very pleasant princess shall her name be, or more like a singling out of the princess. 16, and I will bless her, and moreover I will give you a son of her. Yes, I will bless her, and she shall be a mother of nations. Kings of peoples shall be of her. I will bless her, and moreover I will give you a son of her. Well, this is where we get this one who is going to come forth, the son of her, this princess among princesses. Yes, I will bless her, and she shall be a mother of nations. A mother, or the one who gives birth to these nations that are going to come forth. Kings of peoples shall be of her, and because this is where we get the understanding of this nobility, of this nobleness that is going to come forth from this. And Sarah is going to represent that understanding that Abraham has. 17, then Abraham fell upon his face and laughed and said in his heart, Shall a child be born unto him that is 100 years old? And shall Sarah, that is 90 years old, bear? And Abraham fell upon his face. Once again, he's going to state his case plainly before the Lord, and laughed and said in his heart, shall a child be born unto him that's 100 years old? Even today, this would be a deed, a thing that would be hard to do. But this 100 is going to be, 100's always judgment and the greater understandings of old, because we're going to find out there's going to be a new beginning. And shall Sarah, that is 90 years old, bear? Sarah, this princess among princesses, that is 90. 9 tens. That's the truth in the law. Years that greater understanding of old. Shall she bear, or can she bring forth? We'll find out. She can. 18. And Abraham said unto God, "Oh, that Ishmael might live before you." But Abraham, not really understanding the powers, as we'll find out, God had not yet exposed his plan to Abraham. And Abraham was still kind of a little bit in the dark, according to what the will of God was. "Oh, that Ishmael might live before you. Oh, that this one that's heard of God, of the Mighty One, might live before you." And 19, and God said, "Nay, but Sarah, your wife, shall bear you a son, and you shall call his name Ishak. And I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant for his seed after him." And God said, "No, it's not going to go to Ishmael, but Sarah, your wife, shall bear you a son." Sarah, because she's a reflection now of this understanding of Abraham, even at that time, she's going to bear a son. And that's where all the prophecy kind of gets started, or derailed, I should say. The son that's promised to be born. She's going to call his name Ishak. And that simply means laughter. That's laughter because one reason we'll find out. Abraham laughed, but Sarah's going to laugh as well. I will establish because it's almost funny inside, but we'll find out. In the overall context of it, there's really not a lot funny about it. "But I will establish my covenant with him for an everlasting covenant for his seed after him. I will establish my agreement," and it's going to be for an everlasting agreement for his seed after him. You will have to keep it. These are those that don't really have a choice, but they have to do now what the Lord's asked you to do, or you get cut off, see, and that's what happens. Those become 20. "And as for Ishmael, I've heard you. Behold, I have blessed him, and will make him fruitful, and will multiply him exceedingly. 12 princes shall he beget, and I will make him a great nation. And Ishmael," this one that's heard of the Mighty One, "I have heard you. I have heard. Behold, I blessed him already. Make him fruitful. He will become a multitude as well. I will multiply him exceedingly. 12 princes shall he beget." 12 is a number. 10 and 2, or the law is witnessed. We have the law twice. 12 means understanding, it's like a whole number or something to have the total sum of it. "Princes shall he beget," princes because they're rulers, and there's a separation in the understanding here. Then, and we'll find out later. An example has to be before the one, and the one even that's going to become the example. Student, more or less, 21. "But my covenant will I establish with Ishak, whom Sarah shall bear unto you at the set time in the next year." But my covenant, my agreement, Ishmael becomes a great nation even himself. There are many descendants of Ishmael still here in the country today. All those of the east, we would find out later, were sent out, his brothers, as well as many sisters. But the covenant was established with Ishak, the son of Sarah, like God says, "It shall bear unto you this set time in the next year." Even in that period of the next, as we'll find out, greater understanding, because the Lord was making a new one, a new covenant, a new agreement. 22, "And he left off talking with him, and God went up from Abraham." And that was the end of it. And God left. God went up from Abraham. Fine, because Abraham was beneath the powers that beneath the mighty one are these powers that be. 23. And Abraham took Ishmael his son, and all that were born in his house, and all that were bought with his money, every male among the men of Abraham's house, circumcised the flesh of their foreskin in the self-same day, as God had said unto him. So Abraham's going to take Ishmael, this one that's heard of the mighty one, his son, and all of them, all that were born in his house. His house is that abode, that where he dwells, even in that understanding of the mighty one. All that were bought with his money, all that he had paid the price for, every male among other men of Abraham's house, all of them, and circumcised the flesh of their foreskin. And he circumcises the flesh of their foreskin, just like the Lord had commanded. And even in that self-same day, even in that self-same understanding whereby he was circumcised, did he circumcise them. 24, and Abraham was 90 years old, 9, when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin. Now Abraham was 90 years old, and 9. 90 is the truth, and the law will be greater understandings of old, and 9 is the truth. It's the truth. The truth we'll find out before judgment. When he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, there was some understanding given even then, and this was the sign of it that the Lord left, a token even, a little reminder. 25, and Ishmael his son was 13 years old when he was circumcised in the flesh of his foreskin, and Ishmael, the one that's heard of the mighty one, or the mighty one is heard, his son, was 13 years old. 10 and 3, the law, as it's completed with its strengths, even in its witness of the greater understandings of old, we'll find out the separation is being made here, even in the flesh of those that have this understanding. 26, in the self-same day was Abraham circumcised, and Ishmael his son. In the self-same day, they had one understanding. Abraham and Ishmael, this one that was heard of the mighty one, his son. 27, and all the men of the house, those born in the house, and those bought with money of a foreigner, were circumcised with him. And all the men of this house, will find out, there were those that was bought with money of a foreigner in his house present at that time. Those may not have been of the seed of Abraham, but the circumcision was there, and the covenant was made. Even the same covenant was with Abraham. We're going to move forward to Genesis chapter 18. Return.